Okay, in this video we're going to be looking into a little bit more detail about three different types of demand side factors. The first, consumer sentiment, substitute and complementary goods, and normal and inferior goods. So the first one, consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment is about how confident consumers are about the future state of the economy. So how confident they are about their future ability to get a job, whether they're going to be earning a high income, and that affects their purchasing decisions. So when consumers have a strong consumer sentiment or strong consumer confidence, they have what we call a higher marginal propensity to consume. And what I mean by that is marginal propensity to consume, and this is a tough concept to get your head around. What that means is that if we give someone an extra dollar, what percentage of that dollar will they spend as opposed to save? So if someone is likely to say spend 80 cents of every dollar, then they would have what we call a higher marginal propensity to consume. Somebody that's likely to save 80 cents in every dollar has a higher marginal propensity to save. So marginal propensity to consume is if we give someone an extra dollar, what percentage of that dollar are they going to spend immediately as opposed to save? And generally low income earners or poorer people have a higher marginal propensity to consume. And that's mainly because they have to afford their basic needs. They can't afford to save their money. Rich people, people that are on $2 million, $3 million a year, have a higher marginal propensity to save because they don't need to spend that money. They might save half of their money, where a poor person may only be able to save 10%. So marginal propensity to consume, what percentage of each extra dollar that a person getting are they spending as opposed to saving? When consumer confidence is high, people will have a higher marginal propensity to consume, and therefore that will shift the demand curve for a lot of products to the right. So when people have high consumer confidence, they're more willing to go into debt, and that's going to mean that they'll spend more. They'll spend more on holidays, they'll spend more on clothes, and that's going to cause the demand curve to shift to the right. When people have a higher marginal propensity to save, or they have weak consumer confidence, the demand curve is likely to shift to the left. That's consumer sentiment. Next topic, substitute goods. Substitute goods are viable goods or services that can be used instead of each other. So things that you could basically serve the same purpose. So for example, bus fares as opposed to driving a car. If bus fares go up, more people want to drive cars. If petrol prices go up, more people might want to catch the bus, and the demand curve for buses will shift to the right. Electric and normal toothbrushes, cost of stamps versus email, all of these products are serving not always the same, but a similar function. Rice bubbles and cornflakes, cereal versus toast. Vegemite versus Marmite, butter versus margarine. Products that can be used instead of each other. And how does that affect the demand curve? Well, let's look at one for Coke and Pepsi, a very common type of substitute product. In this case, the price of Coca-Cola has increased from P1 to P2. So there has been a contraction in demand for Coca-Cola because of the higher price. So in this case, the price change has occurred for Coca-Cola. The price of Pepsi hasn't changed at all yet. So what's happened is there's been a contraction in the demand for Coca-Cola because of the higher price. We've moved up the demand curve, we've had up the demand curve or a contraction in demand to the left. How does this affect the market for Pepsi? Well, now Coca-Cola is more expensive. If we keep charging the same price, so say we were charging P1 for Pepsi as well, I'll just do a long line across. We haven't changed the price of Pepsi, but now there's more demand at any given price for Pepsi because Coca-Cola is more expensive. So demand has gone from this point here, let's say that was 50 units, to 70 units, purely based on the fact that Coca-Cola is more expensive. So if the price of a substitute product increases, that's going to lead to a shift in the demand curve for the substitute. If the price of Coca-Cola decreased, then the demand curve for Pepsi will shift to the left. Even if we don't change the price, there's going to be less demand for the product because Coca-Cola is now cheaper. So the price of Coca-Cola increases from P1 to P2, that will shift the demand curve for Pepsi to the right. If the price of Pepsi decreased, we would simply move along the curve. So in this case, the price of Pepsi hasn't changed. Okay, it's just had more demand at any given price because of Coca-Cola is now more expensive. Complementary products. Complementary products are products that are used together. So products that we use at the same time. So hot dogs and hot dog buns, tennis shoes and shoelaces, beds and sheets, buckets and spades, DVDs and DVD players, new cars and wheels, any products that are used together at the same time. Printers and ink would be another example. If the price of a complement, so let's say hot dog price has increased, then the demand for hot dog buns, even if we keep the price exactly the same, is going to go down. Because if the price of hot dogs goes up, less people are going to be eating hot dogs. And when I mean hot dogs, this was a confusion last year, I mean like the sausage, as in the round cylindrical thing that you eat. So if the price of hot dogs goes up, then the demand for hot dog buns is going to go down, even if we charge the same price. Same with if we were looking at DVDs and DVD players. If the price of DVDs was to go down, then the demand for DVD players will go up, even if we charge exactly the same price. So I haven't drawn a demand curve here, but if, for example, the price of hot dogs was to go up, then the demand curve for hot dog buns would shift to the left. At any given price, there will be now less demand. They are complementary products. And the last thing I want to talk about in this video really quickly is normal and inferior goods. Normal goods are goods that, if we have a higher disposable income, we're going to demand more of those products. And this is most goods in society. If people have more money after they pay their taxes, they're going to demand more. So for normal goods, if disposable income increases, the demand curve will shift to the right. There'll be more demand for these products because people have more money. So that's name brands, computers, new cars. Most products that you experience will have higher demand when people's disposable income increases. But there are also inferior goods, and inferior goods are goods that you consume less of when your income rises. So examples of this are basically home brand products, sausages for some people, baked beans. When people increase their disposable income, they will generally demand less of these products. So if this was our demand curve and suddenly our disposable income would increase, the demand for baked beans or second-hand cars might actually reduce. The demand curve may shift to the left, and there'll be less demand for these products at any given price. Yeah? So inferior goods actually experience an increase or a shift in the demand to the right when people's disposable income goes down. And then there are products that are neither inferior or normal. We basically purchase them regardless of our income. And that would be things like sponges and cutlery and necessities that we need to. Toothbrushes would be another example, where we need to purchase these products regardless of our income.